I promise you we have found the culprit to the Ollie problem, and let's explore the top matchups that could be a problem. And speaking of problems, Utah seems to have a risingly bad bet on their hands.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Meanwhile, we get started in the conversations for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Unfortunately, this isn't the greatest of conversations if you are a Utah fan. Now, you've all noticed that the betting line has moved pretty significantly. And whenever that happens, that's typically because the betting sharks have inside information on something coming down the pipeline. So when a massive move like this tends to happen, especially in a quick time frame, it leads you to inquire about what's going on. Now, I don't have an overabundance of sources on the West Coast, but I think I've got a couple, and those couple are both hearing that Cam Rising issue might be a little bit bigger than anyone is putting out there. There might be an Isaac Wilson showing at Oklahoma State, and I can tell you, if you're a Utah fan, don't stress too much, because we're usually very atrocious against a running quarterback. I know it almost sounds crazy to say, but for a preparation purpose, I would almost rather see Cam Rising on the field than Isaac Wilson. Isaac Wilson has wheels, much like his brother Zach. If he gets out, it can look like a Taylor Green style of situation in Stillwater, and I would like to avoid that. Plus, I don't want to hear any excuses from anybody anywhere on either side our starting quarterback, or the other way around. Well, we only beat them because they had their backup quarterback in. Isaac Wilson can present a lot of problems for Oklahoma State, but we all want Alan Bowman, not only for the storylines, not only for removing that caveat later at the end of the season, but we want to be tested against the best. There's not going to be very many marquee matchups in the Big 12 this season, not for us or anybody else, unfortunately, because until somebody from our conference goes to the CFP and crashes the party in the national title, the Big 12 is not going to get any respect. It is what it is. Now, the fact that we're viewed respectfully quite a bit above the ACC, that makes sense. Eventually, we need to chop down the tree of the SEC, or at least get closer to that, which I think is a possibility. It begins with winning. We must win this game. And I don't know about you. Let me know down in the comments section. Oh, I never ask, so please hit the like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff if you don't hang around to the very, very end. But if this is the case, and I'm gathering that this is a very high likelihood that this is for all of the grief that we give Mike Gundy, deservedly so, when it comes to being open about injuries and players that might miss some things. Of course, you want to keep some of that close to the vest, but by and large, it's nice to have at least little slivers of information. Apparently, Kyle Whittingham puts Mike Gundy to shame. Apparently, Kyle Whittingham is really good about using this to his advantage. I've heard from several people. I do recall last year them doing this whole lead up that he was going to play against BYU and he was never going to play against BYU. I remember that. I've also heard from several BYU and Utah fans that this is something that Whittingham's done in the past, that he'll kind of, tease that somebody's ready to rock and roll, but realistically, he knows that they're never even going to see the field. And you don't want to tip your hand to Oklahoma State. If anything, you would like Oklahoma State to divide their time preparing for both Cam Rising and Isaac Wilson. Well, as we all know, Mike Gundy said earlier in the week he anticipates getting more prepared for Isaac Wilson. Maybe Mike Gundy knows some of the same people that think that there's a little bit of a bigger issue at hand with Cam Rising. It might not even be his hand as the primary issue here, or it could all just be smoke and mirrors. Realistically, again, I hope it is Cam Rising. I think that does bode better for Oklahoma State, just from a containment standpoint. But I also feel like the rust that Cam Rising needs to shake off is going to be slightly problematic for him in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And then again, the exclamation point is we're pretty bad against mobile quarterbacks. We always have been. Like Jim Knowles is easily the best coordinator we've had since, the 80s, likely, maybe mid 90s. But even that was not always going to be enough. Jim Knowles, the gambler that could disguise things and scheme things up to a crazy degree. It took him a few years to get rolling, so I don't think we need to cash out on Brian Nardo yet. But again, Brian Nardo got no sleep against Arkansas. He's likely getting no sleep now, nor should he, because if there's any indication that it might not be Cam Rising, we absolutely need to be prepared for a running mobile quarterback because those dudes kill us all the time, even in Stillwater. If you get Cam Rising in a precarious situation and the Cowboys can put up some points, then the atmosphere of Boone Pickens Stadium literally breathing right on top of you can kind of take effect. Everybody will tell you during the Arkansas game for the first half, you could hear a baby toot in that stadium because it was dead quiet. People that have been going to games for 25, 30 years said that that's the quietest they've heard it for an entire half in a long, long time. That is definitely saying something, just like I think the betting line moving to this degree is saying something. That means either some people know some stuff that they probably shouldn't, or there's something being purposely pushed out there to cause some sort of confusion. Regardless, color us somewhat confused and somewhat afraid because Isaac Wilson could have been a Cowboy, decided he didn't want to be a Cowboy because he could get quicker playing time at Utah. That seems to be the case. And if he gets out there and starts running all over the place, I promise you, I'll be in the stands breaking chairs or something. I'll be breaking something because it's definitely going to become a big problem. Just like things could become problematic for you if you don't have your monetary gain set up right, or at least set up to maximize your capabilities for this game. We're always going to hammer the over when it comes to the Cowboys, but maybe you want to hammer the over a little extra if Cam's not going to be playing. FanDuel is the bee's knees that can help you get your money right. Make sure that you head on over to FanDuel today to get squared away with the best thing in the land right now. And you already know this thing that they're doing, it is a little bit different from America's #1 sports book. Maybe don't expect it, but the difference is now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you'll need is a Google account and a current form of payment. Make sure that you go visit FanDuel.com today. Download America's #1 sportsbook. Hammer the over on the Cowboys. Again, that is FanDuel.com. Go there today to get squared away. It's money-making season. It's time to hammer the over. We're also going to hammer away on this Roy. Ladies and gentlemen, this is literally the biggest game changer I've seen in the NIL space because all of us as fans, we want to be closer. We want to be more connected. We want our dollar to mean more, but maybe we don't make donor money. This is your opportunity. It stands for Return on You, ROY. It's the new platform that lets you, the fans, get involved with NIL like never before by making contributions directly to your favorite athletes. By supporting players directly, you can kind of help shape rosters. You can obviously help retain talent, keep your favorite athletes out of the transfer portal and in your town. As you all know, NIL has changed the game for athletes, and Roy is changing the NIL game for fans. Roy is different because it gives you exclusive content access. When fans contribute to a successful player's campaign, they receive access to exclusive content from the athletes, such as their announcement decisions, behind-the-scenes footage, and other personal reflections, all of which are available only to the fans who contribute and support the athlete. There's no risk contributions. The fans' contributions are securely held, and they're only distributed if that athlete makes the decision to align themselves with that group of fan support. If not, the money is returned to the fan. So if you do pay in and that player doesn't accept the money goes back to you. Make sure that you download Roy for iOS or Android and enter the referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered into a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. Visit Roy.com for additional details. Get the Roy app in iOS or Android and start making an impact on your favorite team. Use referral code Locked On for an opportunity to win that $5K cash. Make sure you visit Roy.com for more details. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Get off of the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. Support the players and change the game of NIL for them and your university. I can't say it enough, ladies and gentlemen. I really firmly believe that Roy thing is going to be monumental for Oklahoma State country and everybody. Because, again, we all want to feel connected more so than ever. And this is a good way to do it. And they're not in any competition with the current NILs whatsoever. Matter of fact, they would like to find a way to build a little bit more and be beneficial for all parties involved. So get squared away today. Meanwhile, we get to shift to some of the top matchups before we explore the film study and statistics behind why Ollie Gordon is having the issues that he's having. Of course, I've been giving the O-line a hard time, and I stole this one from my buddy Dave Shaw. We've got a bunch of dudes that are not dogs, but more like dog walkers. When it comes to run blocking, that is fair, but we'll save some of that for segment 3. When it comes to the top matchups, some of these are just going to be pretty common sense, right? Whenever you look at this particular game and these particular dudes, one of the biggest things that stands out is obviously going to be the Cam Rising situation. So maybe one of the first top matchups to pay attention to is going to be Kyle Whittingham versus the media. Now, we all know Mike Gundy does do the same thing, but evidently not quite even on the level that Kyle Whittingham does. So is the smoke and mirrors game going to win out, or is Cam Rising actually going to be out there? Next, we've got number 80, Brent Keithy, the 2024-yard wide receiver or tight end, is going to be a good matchup for Oklahoma State's number 9, Trey Rucker. The responsibility that Trey Rucker is going to have, not only in the flats but up the seams, is going to be massive if we're going to have a chance to slow this offense down. It's going to be some of the isolated matchups that, to me, are going to make the biggest factor in this game. If Brent Keithy can get through by around Trey Rucker, this could be a long day for the Cowboys. Then I think you got to go with another tight end, number 84, Caleb Aloner, the 6'7", 250-pound Baylor basketball player, is a perfect matchup for our freshman All-American, Kendall Daniels, the 6'4". I'm 6'4". I've stood right next to him. I think he's actually a little taller than 6'4". So maybe 6'4 and a quarter, 6'4 and a half, 250-pound Kendall Daniels. The dude that played safety, got moved up to linebacker. I think now he's even going to cheat over a little bit more and play a more advanced linebacker role. This is going to be perfect test for him. We've been waiting to see that All-American version of Kendall Daniels come back and be more consistent. If he can have a big day against Caleb Aloner, who can easily out-jump him and out-muscle him, that spells recipe for success for the Cowboy defense. The next matchup I think we should all pay attention to is number 2 running back, it's Micah Bernard. It's spelled Micaiah, but I think it's Micah Bernard, 6 foot, 206 pounds. The dude that does have almost 1,500 yards already, just backing up Jaquindon Jackson, is going to be a load for Nick Martin. Not only can he run physically, but he can get a little shifty here and there and squeeze through the hole for an extra couple yards. But Nick Martin is not only the best linebacker in the Big 12, but he's legitimately one of the top 5 linebackers in all of America. So this will be a good test, and I cannot wait to watch it. Dejon Stanley, the running back that likes to run the wheel routes and can take it to the house almost every single time, is going to be a threat, and somebody that number 7, Cam Epps, needs to pay attention to. I thought about putting Lyric Rawls here, but let's be honest, Cam Epps is faster than Lyric Rawls. So if Lyric Rawls gets isolated on Dejon Stanley, that could be problematic. This is a role for Cam Epps. I cannot wait to see what number 7 can do. Number 5, Zehemiah Vaughn, their 6'3", 205-pound cornerback from Beaumont, Texas, should be a very good matchup for Dejon Stribling, the Cowboys' top wide receiver at the moment that might have the best ability to get to the NFL. If Nehemiah Vaughn can shut down DeJon Stribling. Of course, that makes life very difficult for Alan Bowman. Then you got to look at number 30, John Randall Jr. His matchup versus the bench is worth, I don't know, everybody in the student section that's going to be literally right on the bench to have some fun. Next matchup, number 7, defensive end. Van Fillinger, the 6'4", 260-pound beast that has 17 sacks, 24.5 tackles for loss, is going to be an issue for either Dalton Cooper or Isaiah Glass. Isaiah Glass is phenomenal as a left tackle, but we saw him at right tackle have a little bit of issues. He didn't have any issues with effort. He didn't have much issues getting to the second and third level, which was a very, very nice sight to see. But he's going to have, either one of them are going to have their hands full with Van Fillinger. They are out their starting strong safety / linebacker that kind of filled their Colin Oliver role. And Karen Reed, apparently he is not going to play, and he's a guy that Utah fans have been very upset about hearing he might not play. I would argue maybe even more upset about Cam Rising maybe not playing. So his backup is going to be worth a watch, because we do know that almost Mr. 3,000 yards himself, Brennan Presley, is really good at finding little gaps and seams and sitting down in zones. So number 14, the 6'2", 220-pound Washington transfer, Josh Colvert. He's going to have his hands full with Brennan Presley and some of the other dudes that we have in the middle of the field. But if he can get the job done, that could be difficult on us. Next, you have number 8, linebacker Lander Barton, 6'4", 240 pounds. This has got to be a game for number 38, Dalton Schultz, the Cowboy fullback, converted from defensive end and Cowboy back. Has more. He did good in the receiving game. He does pretty good in blocking, but he doesn't do the same things that number 90 did last season. I didn't realize how much we would miss Braden Cassidy, but we do. And again, this is not that Dalton isn't doing good. It's just that Dalton isn't doing quite what number 90 could do. We're realizing more and more and more that we miss number 90, maybe more than we ever thought possible. This could be a big game for Dalton Schultz. If he can help get to the second level and take out a couple of these linebackers, including number 8, Lander Barton, I think that'll be a good day and the possibility to get our running department rocking and rolling. Lastly, I've got number 40 for Oklahoma State, tight end Josh Ford, true freshman, versus the Utah front 7, specifically the linebackers. But the chipping and the getting to the second level and even to the third level has been problematic for the offensive line. So just like we need a big game at Dalton Schultz to nullify some of the linebackers they do have, we also need Josh Ford to not only show out in that department, but also be very available on receiving routes. He got his first touchdown, could have been his second touchdown in basically just as many games. We don't need a massive game from Josh Ford, just like we don't need a massive game from Schultz. But we do need a game from both of them that at least gives Ollie Gordon and this offensive line a little bit more assistance, because, as we're about to get to, they need some help. And it's not just on the O-line, okay? It's not. I would love to sit here and say that it's a very isolated issue. I mean, it kind of is, but maybe not as isolated as we may have thought beforehand. Speaking of being isolated, get isolated on your tickets with the best in the game for tickets to come check out the Cowboys versus the Utes. Game Time Tickets allows you to get the best deals on tickets, not only as the event starts, but even up to an hour after the event. The prices just keep getting better because that's kind of what Game Time does. When you're making this trip to get down to Stillwater, America, a.k.a. God's country, Game Time Tickets is the best for you. You could go with the Game Time picks that make getting tickets for your favorite event even easier. The Game Time picks filtered out all the dumb stuff to show you the incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of other tickets and thousands of sites. One-stop shopping is what you need, and Game Time is the ticket for you. The seat views give you a panoramic view of the seats, so there's no hanky-panky of getting put in the wrong section, wrong seat, all that fun stuff. Hey, scalpers are awesome, but they can also get you pretty good. Game Time is not going to do that. With the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will also credit you back 110% of the difference, and the Game Time ticket coverage means your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the industry. Take the guesswork out of you buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but redeem that code, create that account. LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked On College, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Because what time is it? It's here. It's official. It's final. It's game time. So Ollie Gordon has had an issue getting free. We all know this. And I am very well aware that the offensive line, pass pro, NFL level, run blocking, not so much. And I do know that might ruffle some feathers. I'll be at the tailgate this Saturday. So if you want to explain to me how maybe I'm wrong about the offensive line, I'll be all ears, just like I would easily give you kind of my perspective as to why. If you hadn't watched this episode, but if you watched this segment, you'll already know why. So a buddy of mine, thank you, Joe, he sent a spreadsheet, basically, and it was a multitude of things. Basically, what it was 102 offensive plays between South Dakota State, Arkansas, and even some of Tulsa. He's not done. He's still got more to go, but I saw more than enough to accentuate this point. Out of the 102 offensive plays between South Dakota State, Arkansas, and even a little bit of Tulsa, 33 plays had less than 7 dudes crashing the box to stop the run. 102, only 33 had some semblance of a somewhat light box. Out of that 33 with a light box, 26 or 25 of those were passing plays, which means exactly 75.7% of the time, the defense knows when we're rushing before snap and they know when we're passing. That's a massive issue. There's no way that all of these coordinators are literally just getting lucky 75% of the time. They cannot just be guessing right 75.7% of the time. And recall, Casey Dunn has been chastised before, of course, by me, but several others, including the South Alabama team, that discussed how they knew all of the routes and they would literally just sit there and wait on the routes to come to them because they knew what was coming based off of the formations and based off of who we sent in motion. Evidently, a whole lot of that has not changed because the teams know when we're running and they know when we're passing. Because, of course, you can say that they're just loading the box over and over and over, which they clearly are. But to me, that doesn't have the biggest issue. The biggest issue is the fact that they're not guessing. They know when we're going to pass, and they know when to drop back in coverage. So that does mean that Alan Bowman does deserve a little bit more respect from everybody, including myself, because he has somehow been hitting targets in overly congested areas on plays that he really shouldn't even be able to make the completions because the defense is playing it right. They do know it's coming. And Alan Bowman's still able to squeeze some things in there more often than not. Another big thing that it tells us is the O-line is definitely still doing a bunch of dog walking when it comes to run blocking instead of just being flat out mean, vicious dogs. But the lack of creativity is also a much bigger obstacle than I even anticipated. So I got to give the O-line a little bit more slack, but maybe not a whole lot, but a little bit more on the run blocking, because if the defense knows precisely what is coming, of course they're going to put 7, 8, 9 dudes in the box, right? If there's a tell that tells them they're not running, there's a reason that they rush 3 and drop everybody else. And even in some of those instances where they're only rushing 3 and they're dropping everybody else, Alan Bowman is still getting the ball in there. But I get it, okay? Even if you're looking at the O-line's deficiencies and there's more ways to get, more hats on a hat, part of it is Casey Dunn. This version of Casey Dunn is not good enough to get it done. Again, you go back to the predictability against South Alabama and SDSU and Arkansas the first half. I will admit, Tulsa game plan did look significantly better, but even then, the percentages are still there, right? Obviously, when the defense can tell what the play is going to be before the snap of the ball 75.7% of the time, that's an us problem. That's a Casey Dunn problem. There's no way that every coordinator we've been playing is seriously just that much better than we are. There's no way that all of these defensive coordinators just have much better athletes than we do. I understand being vanilla, right? To not, tip your hand and show a bunch of stuff. But being vanilla for the first few games, 100% feasible. But Casey Dunn's been vanilla for the better part of 4 years. That is an issue. So I was over here hooting and hollering about the O-line is just being super, super Charmin soft, which isn't exactly the case. Now, they are not doing the dirty, nasty, mean stuff that you see a lot of O-lines in the country doing. I'm not saying play dirty, but you want that dirty, nasty dude as an O-lineman. You don't want an O-lineman down there being nice and helping people up all the time. You want somebody that's willing to get the pancakes and squish the syrup into the turf. We don't seemingly have that, but we could work around that if Casey Dunn would help us. And I understand that, yes, we are still finding ways to win a lot of ball games with Casey Dunn as the OC, but you have to admit it's been barely, right? We haven't covered a 22-plus point spread in, a few years. Imagine what 10 returning offensive starters would look like if we had an OC that could out-scheme the other team 75.7% of the time instead of them out-scheming us 75.7% of the time. I can tell you that this is exactly what it would look like, right? Close your eyes. Have this vision with me. The 2011 offense. You remember that? When we did not have even this much talent all the way across the board, teams couldn't stop us. Putting up 60 points with Whedon and Blackman and Randall, it was easily doable. Literally every single game. Bedlam, Texas, K-State, it didn't matter. Putting up 50, 60 points was easy peasy. We were putting up 35, 45 points at halftime in most games. That's what it looks like when your offensive scheme is just so much more advanced than the defenses. So if you take this group, right, Ollie Gordon, this O-line, this wide receiver crew, you add in Justin Blackman, and you throw him in 2011, what does this offense look like? And I understand that Alan Bowman is not quite the same as Brandon Whedon, but a lot of it was scheme. A lot of it was schemed up to get guys in certain areas at certain times so Whedon can make decisions much more quickly. So it can be done. I'm not, going to sit here and say that Casey Dunn is the biggest issue. I think Charlie Dickey not being able to motivate his offensive linemen that all got extra NIL money to come back and block for a potential Heisman winner, and they're screwing his Heisman campaign, it's a problem. But the bigger problem is the fact that the coordinator is so predictable that defenses know exactly what's coming. So it's not just that they're putting bodies in a box, because there are several teams that know how to run, hat on a hat, get an extra body in here somewhere to get a numerical advantage, even with a loaded box. Like there's triple option style teams that do it all the time, and run-oriented teams that do it consistently. So there are ways to overcome some of the numerical disadvantages. But we're not really doing that. And it seems to be not necessarily all because of the dudes, but it's because the defense knows what the play is. So they're crashing 7, 8, 9 dudes on the snap when they know it's a run, and they're bailing guys, and they're only bringing 5, 6 in the box when they know it's a pass. So the fact that we're even completing some of these passes is pretty big time. So I'll back off a little bit on my buddy, Alan Backfoot Bowman. All righty, y'all. That's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. As I said earlier, hit the like if you like the daggone thing. Dislike it if you don't. That's cool too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there. You're the bricks, the butter, the bread, the fondue, the fountain, all of it. Help me out. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. I'm going to get out of here and get ready to rock and roll and hopefully get on the road. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.